so this is Bill Brower. We are live from the Serve Pro studios here in Rahway, New Jersey, and I'm being joined by Chief John Rodger of the Rahway Police Department. He's the chief of the police department. We've got Chief Dave Hart, who is the police chief of the Linden Police Department. Gentlemen, thank you for taking a couple minutes out of your day to join me today. And what we're going to talk about is something that has become an epidemic, so to speak, in the first responder community, and that is safe fireground operations for the men and women of law enforcement community. And it's important that we deliver this message to both the men and women of the police departments in our communities across the country, as well as the fire personnel, so that we can collaborate and really put a safety message out there to inform and educate the law enforcement officers on what to do and what not to do when they're responding to a fire scene. So Chiefs, first off, thank you again for joining me today. Give me some insight, some of your experiences, what you've come across, and what you're telling your men and women out there when they do respond to a fire incident.
So for me, this really started with a fire about 3 years ago in Rahway on Patterson Street, where a police officer came across it. He was going to, of all places, Dunkin' Donuts. He was the end of his shift. He was going in to do his reports.
I hope he's going to get a Boston cream.
So he stopped for a cup of coffee out of his district on the Dunkin' Donuts on the complete other side of Rahway.
Okay.
Came across a roaring fire. He's a Spanish-speaking officer with a thick accent. Very excited. Calls out, there's a fire. Really, really fortunate because the dispatcher looked up at the GPS and saw that he wasn't in his district, that he was on the complete other side of town.
Wow.
If it wasn't for that, he would not have survived that fire. He made the decision. The upstairs tenant came down and said, Mrs. So-and-so was in the downstairs apartment. He made the decision to go in. And that's a really, really tough decision. And that's kind of what we're here about, is as chiefs, we would love to be able to say, don't ever go in. But doing it our whole careers, like the three of us have, it happens. You get to a scene, someone's screaming, my baby's in there. As much as a bad decision that it could be, it's something that you can't not decide to do either.
It's human nature.
Yeah, it's really, really tough decision. He decided to go in, and within 30 seconds, he was unconscious. And we do have some video available of it. I was there when they brought him out of the house, and I thought for sure he didn't survive. And it ended up, he ended up in the burn center, severe lung damage, and he's down on disability now.
Yeah.
The great part of the story is he's alive.
He's alive. That's most important.
But what came out of it, and as we started to talk about it, is there's no training available that we've been able to find, giving guidance. Hey, this is what you guys should do. And that's why we've come to the FMBA to partner with you guys to try and put something together.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important information that needs to get out there. I think it happens far too often. You see in the newspaper each and every day. You see on the news channel each and every day. A fire breaks out, and most of the times it's the police officers that are on scene first. They're out on the roads. They're driving around doing their patrols, and they hear it come across, and they get there first. So it's definitely life-saving information that we have here that we can share in the community and really help somebody potentially prevent a tragedy from taking place.
And I think we both acknowledge, and every chief we've talked to will acknowledge, that ideally we would never do it. We understand that. All we're trying to do is, but if you have no other choice, this is the safest way to do it. That's what we're looking for.
Do you guys have any SOPs in your departments about responding to fire emergencies, anything like that?
We do not, as Chief Rodgers has mentioned, we have informal training over the years in the police academy as a recruit. Moving forward, you learn the job by a veteran telling us what you do and don't do. But there's really we don't believe, and my department does not have one of standard SOP, standard procedure. So that's why we came to the FMBA today to try to make a presentation so would make it mandated training for all police officers in Union County with the eventual hope make this a statewide mandated training. It will save officers' lives. There's do's and don'ts of when you respond to a scene, when you arrive at a scene, what you should and shouldn't be doing, what you shouldn't be looking for, sight, scene, size up. And then as we move forward with this video, we hope to get the message out about officer safety and how to act at a fire scene.
Yeah, and for those watching and listening, we're currently putting together a video presentation that will do just that. That'll kind of highlight the do's and don'ts and go into some of the specifics as why you shouldn't, why you should, and some of the fire science. Over the past 30 years, building construction, materials used in buildings has changed, and the types of fires that are now raging grow faster, grow bigger. And the superheated gases that are output by these materials that are burning are so toxic that one breath, as you alluded to before with the officer, he went unconscious within 30 seconds, being inside that unsustainable conditions. The gases and whatnot can literally kill you on one breath. I mean, it's pretty severe, and I think that this education, what we can put together, will definitely help prevent tragedy from taking place here, and hopefully we can spread that message across the country. Not just here in Union County, but start out in Union County, then get it into the state. You were talking about before earlier, trying to get this mandated as part of the educational platform. Can you talk about that a little bit, about what your vision is or where you'd like to see this go?
Sure. We have a mutual goal in our education committee to address the lack of training for police officers in this. There's no clear do's and don'ts on what to do as a police officer when you get to a fire scene. And that's one of the things we're trying to clear up. And like I said, we fully intend to emphasize it should be a last resort move. But in the Rahway case, one of the things that we found was, because a police officer doesn't have the training that you guys have in firefighting, he vented the fire when he went in, which caused it to, get 10 times worse in seconds. And if he knew to close the door behind him, it's counterintuitive for a police officer to go into a fire and say, "Oh, let me close the door behind me." If he did that, could have been a different outcome. If he waited for a second officer, if there's two officers there, what happened in this case, he tried to pick her up this way and carry her out. And she was, a longer woman. She wasn't very heavy, but she was long. And collapsed on the floor, her on top of him, and that was it.
That's it, yeah.
If he had two officers and they would have properly carried her out, I would have done. In retrospect, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, get her under the shoulders and drag her out. He made it out a lot simpler.
Yeah, staying low is a huge key in these types of environments when you're inside of a burning building, and you've got all this heat and gases overhead. Staying low is critical and crucial to survival. As firefighters, we go in with our SCBAs on, so we're on air going into the building. We should be on air anyway. There's still, some guys that don't follow that, and I hope that we're changing the culture in the fire service here with some of these new things coming out about cancer and the detriments of not wearing your SCBA. But anyway, not to digress. Staying low in that instance is key. It buys you that extra 10, 15 seconds that you need to make that rescue or to get yourself out and really make a difference in the outcome.
And we'd love for this to be the model for the state. We're going to start countywide, and the Union County Police Chiefs completely endorse this project. To give the basic tools to the officers. It doesn't exist right now. I've searched all over the country, all over the internet. I can't find anything that says, besides people who say don't ever go in, if you have to, this is what you should do. And that's kind of what our goal is. And we'd love to be able to take this project, take it to the State Police Training Commission, and get them to say, yeah, we believe in this. And there should be a portion of the police academy that talks about this. That would be the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Also, Bill, I know you're going to probably mention, also besides entering a fire building, we want to talk about when you're responding and pulling up as a police officer, about sizing up the fire, getting appropriate resources, confirming there is a fire and/or victims, where you place your police vehicle.
I knew you were going to say that.
It seems like common sense sometimes. Even myself, after 33 years, we pull up at jobs. you should be sizing it up as you're arriving regardless of the job. But at a fire scene, not blocking a fire hydrant, not pulling up in front of the fire building, not blocking the street, not leaving a vehicle unattended, blocking the street. There's a lot of things that seem like common sense sometimes, but when we all get in that moment of a fire, even a police officer, seasoned veteran, may be doing some basic things they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I was just about to bring that up and throw a little humor in it as to why do police officers always decide to park in front of the fire building. As firefighters, that's like our biggest pet peeve when responding to a fire is making sure we let dispatch know that if there's any PD on scene to make sure they're not in front of the building, not in front of a fire hydrant. I actually responded to a call a couple weeks ago, and it was a simple alarm. It was gas inside of a building, but there was some police officers on scene, and where they parked was directly in front of the fire building, which even on that type of emergency, a gas emergency, we try not to park in front of the building because God forbid that thing goes and explodes. You're within the firing range of any kind of objects, projectiles coming out at you, being in harm's way. But that stuff is critical. I think that's the most important role that police officers can really play in a fire emergency is forget about the rescue, forget about somebody being trapped. Give us the information we need that's going to help us make our decisions, our strategies and tactics on how we're going to position our apparatus, where we're going to place the apparatus, what tactics or what actions we're going to take when we arrive on scene. Those types of things that the incident commander especially is critical information for him. And I think it's crucial. I think, maintaining awareness of where you are, not getting tunnel vision, not trying to be a hero in that situation is really key and can have a positive outcome for everybody involved in the situation. So.
Right, as we said, just responding to really any emergency. A police officer responding to a fire, responding to a car accident, responding to a crime in progress, as they're arriving, should be doing that size up in their mind. Only takes 10 to 20 seconds to what's going on here, what type of resources I may need right away, and of course, officer safety should always be paramount also.
Well, what we found is, and after our incident, because we had the same problem, that's where he parked right in front of the house, then he's unconscious, where's his car keys, all those kind of things, how do you move the car, is to try and get police officers to think about it like they're responding to a bank alarm. Because they know at a bank alarm, you don't pull up right in front of the bank. It's part of their training. To think about a fire that way, you don't want to be right in front, out of sight, out of mind. Block the street, don't block the fire engine, but to start to think about it that way. Because it is our nature, you're going on a heart attack call, you're going to pull right up in front of the house. That's just, they grab their equipment, they run in. They got to think about a fire a little differently. And I think handle it more of a tactical approach. If you get that mindset in them, I think that will be helpful.
Yeah, another thing too, crowd control. I mean, everybody nowadays has their phones out. They're recording every single possible thing. And I know when I see a car fire on the highway or I see a building fire, I'm driving, somewhere you see smoke, you're immediately gravitating to that like a bug to a lamp or something, So, crowd control is key as well. And what the role of the law enforcement officer should be at the fire scene is making sure that the bystanders are not getting in the way of the operations of the fire department and the emergency control. Getting that information from any bystanders, any witnesses, any people that might have exited the house on where the fire started, like you said before, that scene size up. If there's anyone still in the building, what they saw, if they were able to see where the fire started or anything like that is critical.
And also, once the scene size up is completed and fire is arriving, we have the perimeter set up. Also, having a police officer report to the command post, so the fire incident commander, seeing what other resources are needed from the police department.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's important because we're all on the same team, and historically there's always been some, territorial issues, and we need to knock that down because we're all on the same team and we need to work together. And it's not about who's going in to rescue who. Like I've said several times, we don't want to do that, but we understand that sometimes it's necessary. And building that teamwork is something we really all need to work on.
Yeah, I think in my time, I'm still kind of a youngin' when it comes to the police and fire service. I just started my 9th year, but I think over the past 9 years that I've experienced this, the relationship has definitely gotten better. That partnership, that teamwork, that camaraderie has grown, and I'm not sure what to really attribute it to, but I think less and less we're seeing the days of, well, I'm the police officer, I'm the firefighter, this is my, show, not your show type of deal. I think it's going away. So
I definitely agree, and it has to do with the transitions, because I have 10 new officers in the last 12 months. That's a big percentage. It's 1/8 of my police department, and we find that the younger officers don't have those competitive tendencies that we saw back in the day, because Dave and I have both been around over 30 years. Even though Dave's older than me.
Post 9/11 too, we see more
Yeah.
cooperation,
Yeah,
more information
100%.
sharing, not just at the local level, to state, county, state, and federal level too, which is a good thing. I agree. Territorial adversary about territory is really minimal today, at least in Union County. I can speak for myself. We get around the county. I know many of obviously all the police chiefs, fire chiefs, and people affiliated with EMS within Union County. We work very well together. So we want this video to be a cooperative effort by police and fire from the FMBA and the state, the County Chiefs Association, to highlight these dangers at a fire scene and to make it an awareness and a cooperative manner, fire awareness, safety for officers.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate you taking a couple minutes to sit down and chat about this. I really am looking forward to getting this project completed and getting the education and the message out. And like I said before a couple times, I really hope that this prevents a tragedy from taking place, and that this can spread, across the state, across the country. And thanks again for coming in.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the state FMBA. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, this is our pleasure. Like we said, we got to work together as a team, and the Union County Police Chiefs Association, you guys came to us with this, so we appreciate the initiative on your end to kind of spearhead this and get this thing going. So much appreciated on both ends.
Thank you.
Thank you.